Shabbat Shalom. We're recapping Daniel chapter 7, verses 1 to 7. We just reread the first 7 verses. I have my children in the background. We just reread the first 7 verses, and now we're discussing the meaning. Nate, did you have that verse in regards to
It was 27. No, it was the verse that we were talking about the lion with the eagle's wings, and we're talking about Nebuchadnezzar, that Yahuah gave him the kingdom. You know, we had referenced Jeremiah chapter 4:7 and 4:13, and then brother read Daniel 2:37 talking about that Yahuah gave him that eagle's wings, and then the scripture that I wanted to combine with that was Jeremiah 27, verse 5 and 6. It says, Yahuah is speaking. He says, I have made the earth, the man and the beast that are on the face of the earth, by my great power and by my outstretched arm, and I shall give it to whom it seemed right in my eyes. And now I have given all these lands into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babel, my servant. And the beast of the field I have also given him to serve him. And then it continues to go on and calls him that he's his servant and that he gave him this authority. Hello?
Brother Dani'el, are you there? Did we lose him?
Brothers.
There he is.
Sorry. Yes, go ahead, sister.
Oh, I just wanted to encourage you guys to maybe, I know this is a little off topic. You guys are like deep in thought. But I think it's called the Bible Project, and they go through each book thoroughly and explain the prophecies. And so if you want to just kind of have an overview of the entire book, you can watch Bible Project and look at the book of Daniel. It's probably like a 5 to 10 minute video.
Yeah, well, we like to break them down and dissect.
Oh yeah, no. And that's awesome, and I'm going to continue to keep listening. I'm just letting you guys know with your free time, if you want to watch it.
I got you.
No, excellent. It's good to start out with those things, because there's no way you can go through the book of Daniel in 5 minutes. You can give an overview of what Daniel's talking about, but you will not be talking about what Daniel is talking about. But it's my project. I know that they do go into detail. I've seen a couple of sermons that the guy that does the videos, he also preaches. He does go very, very thoroughly through a lot of these things, guy. It's just Daniel has prophecies of all the kingdoms of the nations all the way to our time, like to today. It also has prophecy of Messiah and the rebuilding of Jerusalem before Messiah came. It has the dates that lead all the way to Messiah's death. There's a lot of things that 5 minutes wouldn't really break down in Daniel. Right?
I could be wrong about the timing. But you guys are clearly, you clearly have a lot more depth on the topic. I was just saying, just for like review.
Oh yeah, no. My kids, it's interesting to look at different people try to simplify and break things down to fundamentals. That's kind of how we should start, and then we build on that. So we left off at Daniel. We were looking at Daniel chapter 7, the 4 winds, which is the nations of the earth warring, and 4 kingdoms rose out of those wars. We looked at how the lion represented Babylon, and the eagle's wings represented how Yahuah actually gave Babylon that authority and power. He uses eagle's wings in many different areas to show that it's the movement of Yahuah. It says that we were led out of Egypt on eagle's wings. It also talks in Revelation 12 about the woman, how after the man-child was born and the dragon could not devour the man-child, how the woman grew eagle's wings and flew to the wilderness and was fed by Yahuwah for a time and a half of time. So eagle's wings is very important for us to grasp as far as symbolism. Then we got to the very next beast, which is the bear. It said that the bear rose up on one side. Does anybody remember a recap as to what that bear represented?
Yeah.
Medo-Persia.
Well, specifically, Daniel calls it out by name in chapter 9. In Daniel chapter 8, verse 20, he gives a bit of a recap about a ram and then a he goat, and then he tells you in verses 20 and 21 that the ram is Medo-Persia, and then the he goat is Greece, and then he says that it's the horns of the ram, two great horns, one higher than the other, which represents the bear raised up on one side, because one side it's supporting the weight.
Absolutely. So one of the understandings of how we put scriptures together is from, I believe it's Isaiah 28, where it talks about us using line upon line, precept upon precept, putting different scriptures together in order to paint a clear picture. So we have the bear rising up on one side. In the very next chapter of Daniel, it talks about a ram with a horn, one horn rising up higher than the other side. This was a continuation of what we saw in Daniel chapter 7. So the bear represented Medo-Persia, as Daniel chapter 8 revealed. The next beast is a leopard with 4 heads. Heads representing, I think Brother Shaw mentioned it last week, headship, basically. Headship or leadership or rulership of this particular beast or kingdom. So there was 4 rulers over this particular kingdom, and that beast was Greece. During the Empire of Greece, when Alexander the Great died, he broke his kingdom up into 4 and divided his kingdom into 4 and gave rulership to his 4 generals. Then we get to the very next beast, which it's very clear who that is. It's the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire had 10 horns, which represented rulership as well. Does anybody remember what that represents?
Ten horns is 10 kings, ain't it?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
10 horns would be 10. The horns represent kings, so the kings are maybe kingdom.
Oh yes, oh, that's Mike. Yeah, so the 10 horns represent the 10 kings. Because it's on the same beast, it represents 10 types of governors or rulers in the same empire. And this is an example we used, was when we looked at the Roman Empire. You could look through the New Testament, or the many people, the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament. Whenever you see different kings like King Pilate or King Herod or King Agabus or King Justus, and as well as the emperor, which is Caesar. So there's always one emperor, but in different provinces of the empire, there's a ruler in those provinces, such as Herod and Pilate and things like that. So there were 10 different parts of Rome or provinces of Rome, and he put 10 different governors or rulers over those areas of Rome. Now, there was a description of the horns. Anybody want to read? Is that verse? Let's look at verse 7 and 8. Can somebody read verse 7 and 8? Daniel chapter 7.
Yeah, I'll read. Okay, this is Daniel chapter 7, verse 7 and 8. Correct? I considered the horns, and behold, there came. After this, I saw in the night, starting in verse 7. After this, I saw in the night vision, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and broke in pieces, and stamped the remnant with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, but for whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes, like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things.
All right. So when we're looking at the horns being governors or provinces in Rome, there was a small horn or small ruler that came up and plucked out 3 of those provinces that existed in the Empire of Rome. Historically, you can look it up. Historically, it'll tell you exactly what it is. Now, it said that this ruler was different from all the other rulers. It was not the same type of Roman ruler. And we know that ruler to be a religious authority known as the Catholic or Bishop Church, now known as the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church had complete rulership over the Roman Empire during this period. It was actually referred to, after pagan Rome, it was referred to as the Holy Roman Empire under the rulership of the Bishop of Rome. This was the little horn that rose up and spoke blasphemies against the Most High.
And hold up, brother. Let's slow down just for a second right here, because you just brought up something that's very interesting. This is where we are still today. And this is how we've gotten to where we are right now. This is how things have gotten, and it's pretty much influenced the entire world. So we see in the prophecies of Daniel, just like you adequately have said, it's playing out right now. We're living under it. You know, so it's very, very interesting. So let's just kind of slow it down and show people how this happened and how we are living under this.
The interesting thing is that Daniel 7 is referring historically. Revelation 13 brings Daniel 7 to the present day, because the beast in Revelation 13 was wounded, and then the wound of that kingdom was healed, meaning that it lost its power and authority, and now it gained its power and authority back. But we're going to see that later on. Just like Daniel 2, it gave us a snippet. Daniel 2 gave us a snippet. Daniel 7 is giving us more detail, and then we're going to gain more detail later on as we dissect Revelation 13. So I just wanted to make sure we stick to the details of Daniel, so each one of us can be able to point at these descriptions and be able to express to other people what they mean.
Let me back you up. Let me back you up what you said, because in Revelation, Isaiah 13th chapter, just like you said, chapter 13, verse 1. And Yohanan is spoken, John is speaking. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 horns, heads, 7 heads, and 10 horns. And upon his horns, 10 crowns, and upon his head, the name of the blasphemy. And this goes on to what you were saying.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It talks about the same description, that this beast in Daniel 7 will speak swelling words against the Most High, and said, and wear out the holy ones of Yah. It says the same thing in Revelation 13 about this kingdom, specifically speaking words against the Most High and wearing out and giving a time to wear out the holy ones. Mike has his hand up, and then Taja. I hope I'm saying it right.
Yeah. This is where I get weird at, because so we just went over the kings being the horns being kings, which would be a person like a um a leader. But then for the last one, you said it's Rome, correct?
No, I didn't say it was Rome. We said it was the Roman Catholic Church, or we said it was the bishop. We said it was the Bishop of Rome, known now as the Roman Catholic Church.
There was a bishop known as the Roman Catholic, as the religion of the Roman Catholic Church.
I said it was the little horn was the Bishop of Rome, known as the Roman.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. The Bishop of Rome was just one of the at that time it was one of the governors, one of the rulers that he was given authority over the army of Rome.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah, so the Roman Catholic Church is not Rome. Later on, it becomes something different because at that time, when the Roman bishop gained authority, they were still appointing Roman emperors over the kingdom at that time. Later on, you'll see that doesn't happen no more.
True. Okay. Do we have a name for that bishop?
It probably ended in Iacus or Cleese. I have no idea. It sounded Latin. Just know that. Taja, you had your hand up?
Yes, and I can wait for this question, but I was wondering if this has any correlation with Deuteronomy 28, or if you've ever dissected that passage.
Deuteronomy 28. It depends on what historical reference you're trying to emphasize. Deuteronomy 28 talks about scattering of his people, which was done multiple times. But it depends on what you're referring to. If you're referring to what many look at Deuteronomy 28, referring to the Atlantic slave trade or the scattering of those people,
yes,
you can definitely you are definitely right. Think that Rome was involved in the movement of people during that Atlantic slave trade. But specifically, it's more specific. It's more specific to the time and era that the kingdom is rising up in. Right.
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. But would you characterize Deuteronomy 28 to refer to the Atlantic slave trade, or no?
To me, I haven't really 100% done it, and usually when I 100% have all the questions that people can actually answer, when I have all of my questions in my mind answered, then I would actually confirm it. But at this point in time, I can say it can possibly refer to it, but there's certain things that I haven't really gotten answers about in regards to that chapter and the Atlantic slave trade.
Okay, thank you, brother.
I do believe it's possible. I definitely do believe it's highly possible, actually. But as far as that verse pertaining to that time frame, I can't 100% say that it is. All right, Nathaniel, go ahead, brother. Can everybody lower their own hands? Because I'm on the phone and I can't really lower the hands. Sorry. Go ahead, Nate.
Okay. Yeah. Scripture, because the past a week or so, I've been actually kind of writing. Actually, maybe 2 weeks. I've been doing a lot of writing and researching on this topic. I came across something, and I haven't I was wondering if you think that there might be a connection with this. Let me find it. It's in Genesis chapter 3 verse 15. It talks about, and I put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed, and he shall crush your head and you shall crush his heel. Do you find any connection? And I know it's not quite Daniel 7 but we did touch on it from Revelation 13:3 about the head that was slain as if to death, and then being revived. Do you find any connection with that prophecy with Daniel, with Genesis 3:15 being crushed in the head and then coming back?
I believe that there is a connection where it talks about the saints or the holy ones of Yah taking the kingdom, or the kingdom being given to the people, and no one will be able to take it. Also, the stone consuming the statue in the book of Romans. I don't have it off the top of my head. In the book of Romans, it has a scripture saying that Elohim is going to crush the head of the serpent under his people's feet. It says. If anybody could pull up, please do. It says in the book of, I believe it's in the book of Romans or Corinthians, but it says that may Elohim crush the head of Hasatan under your feet. We all know in Genesis 3:15, the serpent represented Hasatan, and it being crushed. So when I read that verse where it says that it was going to be crushed under our feet, and then the statue is consumed or destroyed by Yahushua using his people, specifically the word of Yah, and spiritual warfare, the spiritual weapons that we possess. I believe that there is a correlation.
It's Romans 16:20. I can read it. It says, "And the Elohim of peace shall crush Satan under your feet shortly. The grace of our Master Yahusha Messiah be with you. Amen."
There we go. Yeah. So it says that Elohim is going to crush the head of Hasatan under our feet. So I think that there is a correlation, especially us being his body and him crushing the feet, him using his body to crush the serpent. Yeah. So yeah, that's a lot of other things as well. So. So now we see the 10 horns. We have the stout horn rising up in the midst of this empire. And we read verse 9. Can somebody read verse 10 to, I believe there's 21 verses. So let's read. Can somebody read verse 10 to 21, please? No, let's say 10 to 14. Somebody read verse 10 to 14.
We didn't read verse 9.
We didn't read verse 9, yeah.
We didn't read verse 9. I thought Brother Shaw read verse 9, no?
Oh,
7 and 8.
Verse 8.
Oh, okay. So verse 9 to 14, please.
I got it.
Or somebody can read verse 8 to 9. 8 to 14, sorry. 8 to 14.
8 or okay, I'll go for 8. As I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and the mouth speaking great things. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery throne, and his wheels as burning fire. The fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. 1,000 thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the seraphim were opened. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spoke, I beheld 7 till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. As concerning the rest of the beasts, there had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a period of time. I saw in the night vision, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of Shemayim, and came upon the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion as an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed.
All right. So do you want to say anything, Rick, before we move forward?
Go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and listen to what you got to say, and I'll add some things if I need to.
Okay. All right. Brother Will, you have your hand up? Go ahead, brother.
Is verse 9 connected to Revelation 1:14?
What does Revelation 4:14 say?
No, 1:14.
Okay, Revelation 1:14. What does Revelation 1:14 say?
Yeah, it is connected, actually.
Oh, okay. That just kind of light bulb lit up there.
Absolutely. Same person.
What does it say? I want to know what it says.
All right, let me read it for you. It's Hazayan, Revelation, chapter 1, verse 14. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet likened to fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters.
Isn't Daniel chapter 7, isn't that talking about the Ancient of Days rather than Yahusha? Revelation 1 is referring to Yahushua, but Daniel 7 was a description of the Ancient of Days.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in Daniel 27 here.
Right? Daniel 7, verse 27?
It's the same being, brother. Same person.
Say that again? Because it says in Daniel 7, it said that the Son of Man, one like the Son of Man, was brought to the Ancient of Days, and then it described the Ancient of Days, not the Son of Man.
Right. But
so one Ancient of Days would be the Father, would be referred to Yahuah. Revelation 1 is referred to Yeshua.
Right. And he who has seen the Father has seen the Son.
There's two people in Daniel chapter 7. There's the Son of Man being brought before the Ancient of Days. It's not the same person. It's the Son of Man is being brought before the Ancient of Days. There's two different people in Daniel chapter 7 specifically.
I did.
Do you see that?
No, it doesn't, because he who has seen the Father seen the Son. You see the Son, seen the Father. I know what you're saying. You're saying one is saying the Father, Ancient Days, and then we flip Hazayan, and chapter 1, verse 14, his head and hair, like, well, you got to understand what the yahusha said. He and the Father are one. I get what you're saying. You're saying that on one hand, you're being described.
They're two different. They're two different. When you look at John 14, John 14 doesn't Yahushua wasn't saying that he is the Father. John 14, after that verse, it describes what he means by when you see me, you've seen the Father. he literally describes it right after that verse in John chapter 14, what he means by, if you see me, you see the Father. But that's kind of another study that we
Yeah,
come that we.
We're gonna have to because because
Oh yeah.
missing the context on it.
Because the majority of I believe that it's two different individuals. One is his son, one is the Father. And the Father sent his son. I don't believe they're the same being.
I agree with Brother Jadiel, but I think I think what Brother Shah is saying here, I have to agree with him, is that he's like a reflection of Yahuah, so that's why they have the same type of description. You know, they have that same look. It's because when you're seeing him, he's just a reflection of Yahuah, I think is what he's saying. Even though in the description in Daniel, you're right, it is Yahusha coming before the Ancient of Days, and is given a description of what he looks like. And then in Revelation, you're seeing him with the same description, but as, you know, his son, which is the reflection or image maybe of him, is maybe what I'm seeing there. Because you're right, there is two different descriptions or two different entities spoken of in there, but in Revelation, it's of the son.
Right. So I just brought that up because I found that interesting. I want to talk about that.
Yeah. It's always discussing the understanding of who Yah is always the main talk. You know,
Yeah.
but I'm going into a bad area. Can I ask Rick and Wesley to kind of Rick and Wesley and JP to kind of continue from where I left off? Wesley kind of knows along the direction where I'm going. I'm not sure if he's still here. I'm about to lose reception.
I'm still here.
For a couple minutes, but I'll be right back on right away.
Go ahead, Brother West. Go ahead and continue on, and then when he comes back, just hand the reins.
I'll be there, Captain.
All right.
You there, Brother West?
Wes,
Yeah,
you're on.
can you hear me?
So what do you say, JP? Are you gonna rock, paper, scissors, or what are you gonna do here?
No, I said, Wes, the mic is on and is live. Go ahead, Wes.
Go for it, Brother West.
All right, we're going to do this together because I don't know what direction he was going on. So
I got my hand up. I can share a couple points if you want.
Oh, you have your hand up. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to before we move on to a different topic on that topic that we had talked about. If anyone has like a pen and paper, you can write this down with the notes. When Daniel 7:9 talking about the thrones were set up and the Ancient of Days was seated, that is specifically connected to Revelation chapter 4. If you see in chapter 4 verse 1 and 2, you see this Ancient of Days sitting down on the throne, and then you see that he's esteemed throughout the chapter 4. And then Daniel 7, chapter 13, talking about the Son of Man coming, and he came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. That's Revelation chapter 5. And so when you see Revelation chapter 5, you see that one like the one sitting in the throne, right? The Ancient of Days from Daniel 7:9. So this is Revelation 5:1. I saw in the right hand of him sitting on the throne a scroll, and then we see in verse 5 talking about the Lion of the tribe of Yehudah, and then verse 5:6 of Revelation talks about this lamb as in having been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes. That's specifically Daniel 7:14. So we see or 7:13. So 7:13 is basically Revelation 5, and then Revelation 4 is Daniel 7:9. So we kind of see that correlation. And the other point I'd make is that, on that topic, we see the one sitting in the throne, and then the Lamb coming and taking the scroll out of the hand of the one sitting on the throne. So, I see two separate beings from Daniel 7 and Revelation 4 and 5. That's just my how I come to understand that, along with other scriptures too. But the other thing that I would share is that while we're on Revelation, that part where the Lamb was standing there in Revelation chapter 5 verse 6, we see 7 horns and 7 eyes, that this Lamb has on his 7 horns and 7 eyes, and that corresponds with Zechariah chapter 3 7 and 8, talking about a stone having 7 eyes, and that the high priest Joshua, in English, right, Yahusha, from Zechariah 3, he says that these are men of symbol, and so we see a symbol from Zechariah 3 representing essentially Revelation 4 and 5 in a different format. So I just kind of wanted to connect those scriptures so that people kind of see that, which corresponds to the stone in Zechariah 3 7 and 8 having 7 eyes. That stone, which corresponds to Daniel 2 44 and 45, that stone cut out of the mountain without man's hands. That stone with 7 eyes, a chief cornerstone. We also as stones, and the rulership is given to it, and like the promise that was given to the congregation of Laodicea is if you overcome, you can sit on the throne, share the throne with my Father. I think it's the 3:21, I believe, is where that is in Revelation. So I just kind of wanted to point that out of the layers that are there, and anyone can kind of look at that in their own time.
No, definitely with the when you're looking at verses 10 to 14, you can definitely see that this is definitely being correlated with Revelation now, because we're talking about the end. We're talking about when the judgment was set. In verse 10, we're also talking about when the kingdom of the Son of Man is being given, which we know that kingdom will last for forever, which that can be found in Revelation 17 verse 14, where it says, "These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful." So this is definitely bringing the timeline now to the end at this portion, and it's showing how the Ancient Days will give this to the Son, and the Son, the Son of Man, and this kingdom will last for forever. And this kingdom is what is destroying or destroyed the other kingdoms previously, which then leads to. I'm sorry, was someone saying something?
No, go ahead. Ben West.
No, if you have something, go ahead. Because all I was going to say is this: you definitely see that this is definitely now showing the end, and how this kingdom that we were just talking about, this previous beast, was the little horn, or papal Rome, or this power. This goes till the end. There's no other beast that comes after this, or other description that comes after this. This is it. The judgment is set. The kingdom is now given. The other kingdoms are destroyed, overcome, and this is it.
Yeah.
Well, I got a question.
Hold on for a second. Let me back up what Brother West just said. And see, this comes to the Basar, Yohanan, when Yahusha was talking about the Ruach HaKodesh. Ruach HaKodesh is going to allow us to connect the verses, because he is our teacher. He is our comforter. He allows us to see from Daniel and connect it with Revelation. So we know what Daniel has prophesied, and we see again what Yohanan, John, says in Revelation, and the Ruach HaKodesh working in us allows us to connect the dots. This is the Father, just like you said, Brother West. This is the end. This is the Father. When the Yahusha came, it is the Father again, through his Son, the ultimate sacrifice. That's what's going on. Ruach HaKodesh gives the believer, us, everyone here, allows us to connect what Daniel prophesies to what's going on at the end. They are one. The Father and Daniel are the Father and Yahusha is Ahad. Yahad. Remember their names. Yahuah, Yahusha. Their names virtually are one. Almost mean the same thing, except Yahusha means salvation at the end. So the Father and the Son come together. He's talking about the same Father, same Son, over and over again. And then in Yohanan chapter 8, Father, Son, Yahusha is saying to the Pharisees who are talking to him, basically saying, before Abraham was, I am. So we see over and over again, these are the same plan the Father has. It's coming together, just like Brother West says in Revelation, Hazan. So that's what's going on here. We need the Ruach HaKodesh to get to the understanding, and if we don't get there, we're just going to be reading scriptures. We're going to have a whole lot of book knowledge, but we won't have the Binah, which is the Ruach Binah, which is understanding. Ruach HaKodesh gives us that understanding.
Do you have something you wanted to add, Brother Will?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, does anybody know, or who are the 10,000 that stood before him as the book opened in verse 10? Anybody know who that's talking about?
You said 10,000?
He means 12,000. He means 12,000, right? You're talking about the 12,000 in Hazion?
Actually, it looks like it's thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him in judgment. So to what I'm seeing there, and I was actually about to talk about this, is that what I see in this particular section is the judgment, because it says there that this is right before we see that this one comes before the Ancient of Days, as is given the description here. And then we see that all of these are coming before him, and the books are opened, you know. And then at this point we see the great voice of the words that the horn has spoken. So now we're seeing judgment that's being made against this horn, or this kingdom, this ruler of this kingdom. So I see either this is at the very end when it's talking about everybody's coming before him for judgment, is what it almost sounds like to me. And this is when these words that this one had spoken is going to be judged, you know, and that's when everything will be slain and destroyed and all that kind of stuff. Judgment time.
There is a I know Nathaniel's probably going to bring up Revelation 5 verse 11, but I just want to say
I'm already on it. Take it.
Yeah, no, you can go ahead. I was just going to mention that usually when the term of 10,000 is used, like 10,000s of thousands, that's like a number that's greater than what they can count to. So it may not be exactly literal. It's just how they spoke. It's like, oh, 10,000. Like we can say a trillion. We just know that it's just a number that is just crazy amount. But that's just I'm not saying that's exactly what it is. I'm just saying that's an aspect as well that I know in the Hebrew language they used. But Nathaniel, take it away with the Revelation chapter 5.
Oh, go ahead.
Nathaniel, you're about to go into something. I just want to too quick. So it says thousands who ministered unto him. So what's going on there? Who ministered unto him?
Okay, you got to give the verse, brother. The exact verse, so these brothers can.
Verse 10.
We just talked about the 10 that we just were talking about. This is what he's talking about. So there's the thousands. So again, I think it's just a number of those that are ministering unto him. I would say those are the people, right? That are his people, his chosen, that are ministering, you know, that are blessing him at the same time of judgment, right? Because we're all going to be there, but there's going to be those that are going to be the minister. There's going to be those that are going to be judged. So the judgment seat is what I see there. So
there's a lot going on in that verse.
Yeah, there is.
So
I'm sorry, I don't mean to slow you guys down a little bit. It's just
No, that's good. That's good that you brought that up, because I just recently came across this information, and when you see like I said, you know what I mean, Daniel chapter 7, 9 through 14 is Revelation chapter 4 and 5. And when you're in Revelation 5:11, as what Brother Wes had said, and I looked and I heard the voice of many messengers around the throne, and the living creatures and the elders, and the number of them were myriads and myriads and thousands of thousands. If Jadiel was here, he would talk about the scripture. I don't have them up, about where the Malachim, you know, the angels are ministers. They're ministering spirits. So that would refer to that. But what I would also say is, this was just kind of popped in my mind, Hebrews chapter 12, 22 through 23. But you have drawn near to Mount Zion, and to the city of the living Elohim, to heavenly Yerushalayim, to myriads of messengers, and to the entire gathering and assembly of the firstborn, having been enrolled in heaven. And we know from Exodus chapter 4, 22b, Yahuah says that Yisrael is my firstborn. So when you're in Hebrews 12:23, and it talks about the assembly of the firstborn having been enrolled in heaven, we see that's Yisrael. So we see the Malachim, the angels, right? And then we see Yisrael, his firstborn, that are there. And so we see that in Hebrews 12, 22 and 23. We see that also, as we covered in Daniel, 7:10. And then the interesting thing with Daniel 7:10 is it says, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. And the scripture that pops out, this is the last one I'll share. The scripture that pops out to me is, it says, Luke 21:36, watch then at all times and pray that you be counted worthy to escape all this about to take place, and to stand before the Son of Adam, right? And so in Revelation 7, we see this great crowd, and they are before the throne, right? They are, and it says that they are before the throne. Luke 21:36 says to stand before the Son of Adam, and then in Daniel 7:10 we see that they are standing. Let me find it where it is. I just logged it. There it is. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. I personally see that as like the great crowd, or as Yisrael, those who have been called out, standing before him. So that's kind of how I see that. I don't know if anyone sees something differently.
Well, that's what I was speaking of. But also Hebrews 1:14 speaks about, where it says, are not the Malachim or angels, ministering spirits, sent to serve those who inherit salvation? So, it can also be those Malachim that are sent to his lost, his chosen ones,
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
And that's even how I see it. I see it as the ministering spirits or angels, according to, because I connect it with Revelation chapter 5 verse 11. But go ahead, Will. You had something else?
No, I was just needed us to slow down a little bit on that verse. There's just a lot going on.
Mm-hmm. One of the reasons also why one of the reasons why I also see it's referring to angels is because that hymn, the minister unto him, is referring to the Ancient of Days. But yeah.
So, yep. But I think we're all on one accord as to the book is about to open up. It's toward the end times there. So.
But now we're going to get into the I don't know how much time you guys usually go to. I don't know, Rick, you want to continue and finish this? Because I know we're going to get into now the explanation of this vision of what he saw.
Hold on, Rick, just for a second.
At this point,
the Ruach, Rick, hold on for a second. The Ruach is leading me to point to Sister Taja, because you brought up the Deuteronomy 28, Devarim. You brought that earlier when you were talking to the rabbi earlier. and what needs to be told, because we know where you're coming from. There are African Americans, me being one of them, who believe that they are among those from Yehudah, and I think that's what you're trying to lead it to, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Now the brother wasn't pushing you off. No brother here is pushing you off. It's just that they were talking about Daniel at the time, and when they get into those type of studies, they will get deep into those to answer your questions and all of that. Because I know you. The only reason you brought it up because you're interested in it. You're a very young lady, so they will get to those things and they will answer those things and have a conversation about those things. So don't despair, okay? All right, Brother Rick.
Well, at this point, I'm not sure. Let's see, we start at 8 o'clock, right? So typically the recordings can't go over 2 hours. So we would have to end at 10 o'clock. So if we can try to get through the rest of this, we ended at, what was it?
We ended at 14, so 15 to 28. I know it does to get a little, because basically it's just breaking down everything we just broke down, but you have some scripture backing up everything that we just went through.
Well, then we shouldn't have to take too awfully much time, but why don't we go ahead and finish through it? Just break it up into 2 sections and we'll just digest it as we go for the next 20 minutes. So who wants to read the
next 7?
Yeah, the next 7.
I'll read a little bit of you guys.
Go ahead.
Verse 15, is that where we're at now?
Yeah.
Where do I start?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, and the vision of my heart troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me know the interpretation of the things. These great beasts, which are four kings, which shall rise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the king forever, even forever and ever. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured the break in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom thee fell, even of that horn that had eyes and mouths, and spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them. Unto the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High.
So
and the time came.
Let's go ahead and stop at 21. What do you see at 21 there, or what you just read up till that point?
Rick, I would have to read that again, brother. That's just some information overload for me. You know,
anything stands out to you?
Well,
victory.
Daniel was quite grieved at this point in 15, and that's obvious in that verse. So in verse 16, he was given the interpretation clearly. And then in 17, it's letting him know that these are the beasts which are four kings which shall rise onto the earth. So the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdoms and possess the kingdoms forever and ever. So it seems to be concluding these descriptions here of so what I'm gathering from what I just read, he's he's actually have gotten the clarity of his revelation. And I'll have to stop there. But there's a little more going on there.
Yeah, you can definitely see he's getting the interpretation of that dream, because he was grieved that he didn't understand it. And then he came near unto one of them that stood by and asked him for the truth of these things. So he's asking for the interpretation, and you see it going down the interpretation of what was exactly happening, and it makes it clear of who's inheriting and what's going on. Like, what were these beasts? Some people say is like, oh, I don't know where you're getting beasts as kingdoms or kings. Well, you have here in verse 17 showing you a clear thing of these beasts are kings or kingdoms. It's using as a symbol. What I really like is how in verse 19, where it talks about this beast was so stout, was different from the other ones. In verse 19, when it brings up, it says, then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, whose teeth was iron and his nails of brass, which devoured and broke in pieces and stamped the residue with his feet. Now we were just talking about that fourth beast with the brass of nail and the teeth of iron. It's forming those two nations, which was Greece and Rome together, and it was using that power to be as mighty and stout as the other ones. And I thought that was interesting to mix those two together, because historically that's exactly what they did. With verse 20, I like again how he brings up the 10 horns and talks about this little one, and how it talks about how 3 of the other horns fell so that this one can come up or make room for it. Specifically says, and of the 10 horns, this is verse 20, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spoke very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I know Jadiel didn't mention it, but historically, when we talk about the 10 provinces of Rome or the 10 kings of Rome, there was specifically 3 of those that was plucked up or absolutely removed, which historically, let me see if I have my notes here. Historically, it was the Hurley, the Vandals, and Ostrogoths, which wasn't just, they were beat in war and they assimilated into whatever nation that won. These guys were wiped out.
Those are
even historical documents, those are the 3 horns that were plucked out, because historically what made room for this other horn to come up, these 3 had to be removed, and there's only 3 provinces or 3 kings at this time, or kingdoms, that were plucked up to make room so that the Bishop of Rome can have full, complete power. And that was the Huli, the Vandals, and the Ostrogoths, because they actually opposed them. They opposed the Bishop of Rome. I believe the Vandals were pagans, but the Hurley and the Ostrogoths were Arian Christians, which they didn't believe in a Trinity. They believed in one God and a Son. And the Roman Catholic Church, or Bishop Rome at this time, did not like that.
And to add what you said, Brother West, make it a little simpler, or let's make it a little simpler here. The Roman Empire was taken over, eventually evolved into the Holy Roman Empire, when we have the Catholic Church. We know that when the Catholic Church got into full gear under the Pope, we know that they changed a lot of things, especially when it came to the faith. We know that they introduced all kinds of images. We know that they changed names. That's why we were calling the Messiah Jesus Christ. That's why we were calling the Father God. That's why they changed they came up with a calendar, the Gregorian calendar that we're under right now. They did all of that. And even though we had other people protested, like the Protestant church, they still kept a lot of the teachings of the Catholic Church and spread it worldwide. And where are we today? We still under that. No matter what happens, the majority of the people in this faith is under what the Catholic Church started way back when.
I agree. That leads me to going back to this, what we just read here, because I see that it's multiple times that we see that the saints, those chosen ones, if you will, the set apart ones of Yahuwah, shall possess the kingdom. Then it comes and says that he is doing war against them and that he's succeeding. So we see this through history, how this battle has been waging to try to hide and steal things, the name and all of the things that we know that Rome has done. And we see how they're prevailing until the Ancient of Day, Yahuwah comes and he basically puts an end to it. He begins to destroy this fourth beast and destroy it so that it's broken into pieces, it says. But then it goes back in and tells the story of this kingdom again and how it's going to prevail. And then all again comes back to saying that we're going to get dominion once again. So it's almost like this wave of ups and downs, this struggle that, the people of Yahuwah have had to go through to maintain so that we could find it today. They've done a good job of hiding, but not good enough for where Yahuwah says it's time to reveal all of this and expose all this lies and stuff that's taken place over all of these centuries, and now reveals to us what Daniel was saying that we would know in the end time when it was all opened up and revealed, which is really what's going on, because we can see through history who it's speaking of now that we understand the terminologies that are being spoken of in Daniel and how they line up with Revelations and how they begin to tie in all of the details that we didn't quite understand, until the Ruach comes and gives you understanding. He opens it up to us. So, praise Yahuwah for all of that. But is there anything else, Brother Nathaniel? Go ahead before we finalize this in the last few minutes we have.
Yeah, just kind of, this is, the study that we're doing, it's really important to study it on your own, and go over it and digest it, because there's a lot of details. And so I'm just trying to give, just some kind of some pointers for when you're studying on your own. There's about a dozen connections between Daniel chapter 7 and Revelation 13. Mostly it's between the first beast of Revelation 13, the sea beast coming out of the sea, and then the fourth beast of Daniel chapter 7. Brother Rick had mentioned one about when the Ancient of Days sits. In Daniel 7:11, I forgot to mention that point. It was in 7:11 we see that he picks up this beast and throws it into the fire. We see that in Revelation 19 verse 20, the beast and the false prophet, and then it gives all the characteristics of the second beast, or the earth beast, in Revelation 13 are thrown into the fire, which burns with sulfur. And so, that's one of the points of the connections that are not in, directly Revelation 13 and Daniel 7. But when you read Daniel 7, it's really important to go almost like right away or back and forth and make notes in your scriptures for Revelation 13 and then Daniel 7, and you'll see about a dozen connections there. So I just kind of wanted to give some points for when people go and do their own research and their own digesting, just to kind of look at that and just to understand. It's kind of interesting. It's without a doubt, one time, one similarity, 2, 3 similarities, but like a dozen, it's pretty concrete that the first beast is the in Revelation 13 is the fourth beast in Daniel 7.
Actually, I think we're going to go over Revelation 13 right after Daniel chapter 7.
Right. Yeah, I'm giving some tips, when they're, so they can prepare for, where it's going to be. But yeah.
That's.
The one thing that I mentioned, or that I didn't, also about the 42 months, that mouth giving, speaking great words of blasphemy for 42 months. I think that's Revelation 13:5. That coincides with Daniel 7:25 with times and half a time, and I explained that, I think last week, what that was. 3.5 years is 42 months is 1,260 days, according to the scripture. So we just see like another, connection point right there.
Brother Nathaniel, are you trying to tell me that there's not 7 years of tribulation?
No. I'm not necessarily saying that. Who knows though?
That's for another time, right?
I see two camps. I see the Revelation 11 3 and 4 event, the two witnesses, and then in Revelation 11:7, the beast coming up out of the pit, killing the two witnesses. I see that also as in the Revelation 9:1, the angel with the key to the pit of the deep coming down, and then 9:11, the name in Hebrew and in Greek is the destroyer, right, or destruction. And then when you look in Revelation 17, I think it's 17:8, it says that the beast comes up out of the pit and goes into destruction. 17:8, and then also 17:11 says that it goes into destruction. So I kind of see, like, at least where the two witnesses die is kind of at that midway point at the very least, or the beginning of the 3.5. Yeah.
That's very interesting with the witnesses. We're going to close, Brother Rick?
Yeah, we're at the end of it. So we kind of went over everything. We're going to highlight it again next week. I'm sure we'll go back over all of the end of this. So, but as Brother Wes has already concluded, it's just a recap of everything that we've already read. And, we've kind of seen how things have flowed a little bit up until this point anyhow. So we're at the end of our recording time, so we will say thank you for your input tonight, and may you continue to rock you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom, Akuti, and Brohim. Thank you so much for viewing this video. We hope it was helpful to your walk in the truth. Remember to always search the scriptures on your own, to study Abba's word and show yourself approved, according to 2 Timothy 2:15. We invite you to study with us. To join us in a live study, just go to our website at assemblyofyahuah.com and click the Join Us tab. We have something available Wednesday through Saturday of every week. If you've been Baruch or blessed by this video today or any other study, we encourage you to go to the Giving tab on our website. Our elders all have their own ways of income, so none of the giving or proceeds go to them. Instead, it goes to biblical assembly needs. We also encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss any new videos. We sincerely pray that Abba continues to direct your path as you acknowledge Him in all your ways. Much avaha, and again, shalom.